Hello, everyone out there. Welcome to Key Conversations with Amanda. Oh, I am so excited today to be having this conversation with my dear friend. We've known each other for several years now, Angie Woodrow. Her company is the Continuum. And we're going to dig in, and you'll find out a little bit more about that in a minute, about some things that I think will really help. It's a good time of year. Good time of year to be doing this. So, Angie, thank you for being here. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and what you do, and then we will dig in.
Okay. Thanks, Amanda. I always enjoy having conversations with you because there's just so much to share and discover. So digging in is discovering, innovating, or integrating, and then gaining. And I like to say I help organizations by nourishing their organizational growth and development. My heart and my passion is for those nonprofits. And there's a lot out there because during pandemic, a lot of people got inspired and a lot of people have reached out to say, so I have a nonprofit that I started during the pandemic and I got a grant. And now I need all the things. And that's what I love, helping that nonprofit that started at the kitchen table shift and organize and grow and develop into a conference table operation, because there is money out there for all kinds of things. And having a system and a structure and a culture in your nonprofit, be it big or small, if it's 3 people or 2 people or 20 people, there has to be a culture. You have to collaborate. And you are a business. Spoiler alert, nonprofits are businesses. It's just that they take their profits and turn them back and seed and feed their mission statement. And I just, I feel called, I feel passionate, and my heart sings when I'm able to help a nonprofit organization nourish and grow and develop and really deliver on their mission. So that's what it's about.
Yes. And I have seen you in action. And what I love about it is I remember I was several years ago when we were first getting to know each other and we were talking about how many, it's pre-pandemic, of course.
Yes.
How many nonprofits there were just in our own community. And I think what you're doing is so important because it allows nonprofits, like you said, they are a business. Yes. What's frustrating, having been a part of several nonprofits myself, either on the board of directors or just involved, is that often you get into that spinning wheel of not having profitability always. Everyone is always digging into their own pockets to make it keep moving.
Yes.
Because it's not being run like a legitimate business and allowed to have that space of, functioning that way. So it's really important. But what I love too is that everything you do that's to help a nonprofit really can be applied to any business.
Yes. Truly.
Yeah. And that DIG. So talk a little bit about, because I love this acronym, talk a little bit about how DIG, maybe how you came up with that, or if that's something that, you've been applying for a while and it's just kind of worked into that acronym.
Yes. Hat tip to you, because I've been working on that brand voice that you got. This is what Key Conversations is all about, being able to talk about what your brand story is and how you or your organization contributes. So I've been doing my homework. Thank you very much. And I had to take pause a couple of weeks ago. And when I was just literally in full stop, this thought came to me. That nourishment is very important. And I started to think about an organization like a plant. And we only see what is above topsoil. And topsoil is everything that's sexy and fun, the strategy, the implementation, the launch. But you can't do any of that unless you dig, discover, innovate, integrate down at the root. And it's the root where you nourish all the things in the topsoil. And
Yes.
the root of everything in an organization, whether you're 3 people or 30 people, is the culture, the values, the mission, the vision. And we don't really pay attention to that on a day-to-day because it's down below the soil, and the topsoil is what we're focusing on, or we're picking the growth in the product and distributing it out to everyone. And I thought, I just need a really good picture to help everybody understand that you still have to focus on the root. And to continue with that plant analogy, you only gain growth when you feed and nourish the organization. So we all know that we have house plants that are in pots, and when plants in a house become root bound, what happens? They stop growing. Yeah. And so you either have to transplant them to a bigger pot, and that requires work and planning and organization. You just don't drop it into the next pot. You have to give it more infrastructure and soil. So thanks to you, I help people understand how I work with organizations by using this visual picture, nourishing organizational growth and development. So I, like everyone else, like what's going on in the topsoil, but I like working with an organization at their root because it's about the people. It's about the relationship. I read something recently that said, it's not culture fit, it's culture contribution.
That is so good.
Yes. So dig for me is discover the distinction. There's culture fit, but if you make an incremental distinction and start to talk about culture collaboration, it changes the whole thing. Changes the whole thing, and it really becomes a nourishing space where you can collect and collaborate with new ideas, or restore and renew and reinvigorate those things that were working for you that have kind of languished because you have to fertilize or create more space so that the roots can expand and support all the growth that you envision.
Yeah. I love this because I've actually kind of moved into a space myself with launching a few programs and trying to figure out how I was going to, name them, and sat on it for quite some time. And kind of the idea of, I have a group that's an incubator, because you have to kind of give things special time to happen. With in business, and then like specifically with what I do, your story and your development, with all of that, you have to grow it, you have to cultivate it. So I have a cultivating group, and then you can figure out where you want to encourage growth. You can accelerate the growth, you can slow it down. Like there's lots of, I love the word pictures that come with those words, because it's something so relatable. I think there's not too many people in this world that don't understand at least something about growing a plant or growing something and what it takes. And it's so applicable to business because it's the same. It's the same thing. It's growing this thing, but the nourishing, I really love that, because I think we forget about that as
Mhm.
business owners
Mhm.
or organizations or companies. We forget that we need to nourish.
Yes.
We can't just give it and give it and give it. We need to have ourselves nourished in order to actually function.
Yeah. And nourishment comes in a lot of different forms.
Yeah.
Some of it can be quick and easy. Some of it can be, it takes time. It's just like when you think about if we leave the plant analogy and we think about just food in general, like
Mhm.
if you go to the grocery store, you all know the philosophy, or if you don't, you're now going to learn. Yeah. The perimeter of the grocery store is food in its most purest form. It's
Mhm.
also the food that takes the longest to prep.
Yep.
Although, thank you very much, Instapot inventor, right?
Right.
Yes.
We can all find our hacks.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. But they're whole foods, and the whole food, all of the food nourishes you. I'm not there yet, but I have a dear sister who just drops a whole stalk of celery in the Vitamix and zhooshes it up in the morning and has everyone drink their celery juice. And it's bracing. I'll just leave it at that.
Yes, it is a different, if we kind of stick with, yes, like
Yeah.
the nourishment, those of you out there that are holistic health and wellness,
Yes.
I actually was at my practitioner yesterday, and she was talking about a supplement for me that's for the liver. And she says, well, it's really good. It helps support this and that. She goes, but it tastes awful. And I'm like,
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
used to awful, because
Yeah. Yes.
we know that unfortunately, sometimes the things that we need don't taste so good,
Right.
are a little hard to hold in our mouth.
Right.
But
And so, and
how do we get
so
past
that's
that?
a bit exactly. That's the business analogy. I mean, for now centuries, people have been taking cod liver oil because they
Mhm.
know it helps. Okay. It's necessary. I mean, Mary Poppins sang the song, just a spoonful,
Spoonful of sugar.
yeah, help the medicine go down. So, but now they've innovated and they've discovered how to create a way to make cod liver oil more appealing. It's
Hmm.
lemon flavored, so there you go.
Right.
And it's easy now to include that in the routine and nourish my body in a way that I never thought I was going to be able to do, because
Mhm.
you're better in the category of, okay, it tastes terrible, I'll do it. I'm like, there's got to be a better way if it tastes terrible.
Yes, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's
Yeah.
just like, well,
Yeah.
but I do think, like you said, applying this to business, there are times in business we have to swallow that icky pill,
Yeah.
that icky medicine, whatever.
Yes.
There's so many great analogies, but it's like, when we have the tasks that we need to do. So kind of getting back to digging in and
Yeah.
nourishing. Well, in your business, if it's not functioning the way it should be, or if it's not set the way it should be, it means you have to swallow the pill of maybe stopping and
Mhm.
pausing and looking and assessing. Even if you have this thing down here that, oh, I have to get to that.
Right.
We're launching this.
Yeah.
We've got expectations. Okay. But if you don't slow down enough to develop a culture
Right.
that you want to have foundation, to have nourishment within your organization, whether it's business or nonprofit, then
Mhm.
you can keep doing this, but you're going to burn out or fail or, fill in the blank.
Right.
And so sometimes it's a sour pill.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I don't want to. I've got to get that done.
Yeah.
Not this.
My analogy of that is I love it when my raspberry bushes are in full bloom and they go from like August this year, they went all the way to October. So it's
Yes,
just
we were
crazy.
picking lovely berries.
Right.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes. But here's where doing something you don't like to do is essential to growth. You have to whack those things back down to the ground. And I've been gardening for a while, so I know things are going to grow back. And clearly in this area of the Pacific Northwest, any berry bush that you hack back comes back with a vengeance. But it's in the moment when I am clearing that garden out and cutting it back. And I'm like, oh, summer's over. Oh, this is so hard. Oh, I don't want my raspberries to be gone. And I cut them back, and I know in about 5 months, they're going to start to shoot up and grow because, yes, because their roots are resting and restoring because they don't have to take care of what's on top. And that is critical. And you just made the analogy to it by saying, well, I can't get to the growth until I do this necessary thing that I don't like. And it's either I don't like it because it tastes bad, or I don't like it because I don't see anything happening, like bottom line input or something like that. But you have to know that you have to cut back in order to be able to nourish. You have to put in necessary hard things into your organization, be it profit or nonprofit, in order to nourish it and give it the food in the root so it can grow and develop. And all plants, I mean, we all have amazing trees in our backyard and around our neighborhood. And if they weren't trimmed yesterday, we found out about it because we lost power because the wind was so strong that it knocked all the branches down. It was just crazy. Those big trees have to be trimmed in order to help contribute to our culture so they don't interrupt the day-to-day. Trimming and cultivating and nourishing and pausing are all essential parts of organizational growth and development that don't feel natural. And I like to say, I help organizations nourish their organizational growth and development so that it feels natural, even when it's not what we like to do. Or
well, and it is tricky because it, following nature we have we don't follow nature well.
No, we don't.
Humans anymore, because we have light 24/7. We have access 24/7, everything. If you want food at 2:00 in the morning, you could probably order it and have it dropped off at your doorstep. So it's this process of training ourselves to, even if it's a little bit, we've got a day. Okay, well, we're supposed to rest at night. Many of us don't, but we're supposed to rest. Why? Because in the morning we need to have that energy. Our bodies need to, and plants, they, close up, or they kind of gear down, animals, all of that. And then, in seasons, like you said, like we're in a season, this is a really good season, winter, everything dies back, all the nutrients goes back into the ground. So like you said, the roots can get stronger. And then when it's waking up time in the spring, you mentioned trees. I love this because if you don't care for a tree, and make sure that its roots are strong, because their roots should be twice as deep as it is tall. That's what it should be.
That
doesn't always happen.
especially if the tree is around a house where there's a foundation that interrupts and you've put
Yeah.
a beautiful koi pond or something over to one side, and suddenly there's no more place for the roots to go. So
Yes, unless you're intentionally getting to go down,
Yeah.
down. We had to do that a lot when we lived in high altitude in Denver because things would crawl.
Yes.
Roots would try and find. And it's like, nope, we're gonna force all the moisture down. It's gonna go down, down, down. Because if you don't, then you get a wind.
Yep.
Or you get a frost or you get snow, and then away you go. You're done. It's crash and burn time for that tree. So I think that's a great analogy too, to kind of bring into business with D.I.G and Nourish. You are taking those things, and those concepts allow us to get those roots deeper, whatever that means as a business or an organization, because that's going to be dependent on your goals.
Right.
But
and every group's goals are different, because the human beings that are in this organization are different than the human beings that are in this organization. I mean, they're all same, but there are distinctions about them, especially if we think about in Clark County, we have this amazing community that just has such a heart for trying to solve the homeless stability problem.
Yeah,
and
it's hard.
Yes. And when you think about it at the micro level, the teeny tiny, what can I do to help this person have a little bit more stability in this moment? That's one way to approach it, but it doesn't help us think about the root of the situation. And the root of the situation is hard because no one owns the solution to the problem. It is a culture contribution that has to happen across economic status, as well as across community governance, and creating a root system. Spoiler alert, people don't see root systems unless we're doing those.
They're not sexy.
Right.
They're dirty.
Unless it's spring, when you force your tulip bulbs in the glass dish and you get to see the whole thing.
True. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but those are not deep roots, and it doesn't last long. So because there's no soil, and the container is limiting. And I don't think Clark County wants a limiting solution to a culture of contribution. So we can't force the bulb. We have to plant it and nurture it, and it's going to take time.
Yeah.
And to me, it's always well, everyone is more aware of the issue when it's colder.
Sure. Either extremes. So right now, of course, extreme heat, extreme cold.
Right.
And I definitely, when it's cold out, like if it's really cold, I'm like, that is something that hurts my heart, because I'm like, if I did not have some place to stay tonight, that would be just awful.
Horrible. Yeah.
And I walk early in the mornings, and we see, in downtown Vancouver, and I know this is probably true across the board. It doesn't matter. It's city, anywhere, USA.
Yes.
Likely you're going to come across someone who, and where are they? Well, they're trying to be under cover, which is usually a doorstep of a business. So then that becomes a huge problem. And then so forth and so on. But like you said, it's tricky because there's a huge heart for, so kind of taking that a nonprofit that's geared towards that as an example.
Right.
There's a huge need. And it seems like if there seems sometimes I probably like there's no good solution, there's a lot of things that go into creating a solution that will be successful. But if you don't have, as a nonprofit that's, has a huge heart for something amazing, you don't have the infrastructure to support what needs to happen. And part of that too is, as a business or as a nonprofit, there's times that we try something and it doesn't work.
Right.
And then what do you do?
Well, you have to keep digging. I call that the season of experiment. And experiment is absolutely the most necessary thing we do in business. But as soon as you use the word experiment, people think, oh, science, and you have to have this, and
right?
You gotta have that. And, I mean, I know how that goes. I live with a scientist. So, but experimenting is actually saying, for this period of time, be it 6 months, be it 6 weeks, be it 6 days, be it 6 minutes, we're going to gather the data from our actions. And then we're going to find time to sit down and look at the data. And then we have to research what's out there. Does it match our data? Are we on a trend, or have we discovered a new trend? And if it's a new trend, what do we want to do about it? And these conversations and this process of your experiment, it's very messy. It is not Pinterest perfect. It does not happen in a hot minute. And this is why some workspaces have whiteboards all the way around on all the walls, because you have to keep writing and testing and looking at the data from more than one perspective and understand it. And if that is bumped up against, well, I've got to keep this going. There's people coming in the door to stay in the homeless. If you're a nonprofit that's helping homelessness, finding homeless stability, you're doing some kind of service on the day to day. And that takes time. And experimenting and evaluating and reviewing your actions while you're actually still collecting data is a whole skill set that most people don't have. And it's very necessary. And whether you do it sort of okay or absolutely okay, it still takes time. And you should probably have outside help. And outside help doesn't have to be extravagant cost, but you have to be clear what the outside help is helping you doing. Yeah,
absolutely. There's a lot of pieces with that, but yes, absolutely. Because it is something that, there's a lot of moving pieces to a business, but that is where I think getting the foundational pieces in place, you start being able to track better and look better and all of that. So
if you have your foundational pieces in place, when you're gathering data, you know what to look at. You don't pick up every red herring, because that's some this is really interesting, but it's not what we're focusing on. And if all you have are data points that don't help you focus on what you think you should be focusing on, spoiler alert, you get to start your experiment all over again, and that might be reevaluating what you're actually trying to do. Because if you're in the process of doing this and you're not getting any data points that feedback that affirm what you're doing, it might be time to go back to the drawing board and shift focus. And that's hard for a nonprofit, because that requires changing bylaws and articles of incorporation.
It gets very sticky very quick.
Because nonprofits are like 7-layer cakes or 7-layer dip. They're all delicious, but you have to make sure all the layers are blended appropriately.
Absolutely. yeah, nonprofits are definitely, I have people ask, and of course, I refer them to you if they're serious, but I say,
yes. Yeah.
I don't know. You might not want to start a nonprofit because you do not understand potential. Like, really take some classes, really look at this. Nonprofits are great. Starting one
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah.
But it's a commitment, and it is not for the faint of heart. And
right.
only because I think people don't realize that, great, I'm helping the community, but there's so many pieces to accountability.
Right.
Once you're a nonprofit, you have to be an open book
right.
to the community that you're, especially if you're taking in donations, and to your donors, and to it's like people don't realize the complexity of it.
Right. You're cultivating relationships with your volunteers, with your donors, and they are often not one and the same.
Yeah.
Then if you have a staff, whether they're full-time volunteer or they're paid, you're cultivating a relationship with them. And then you're cultivating a relationship with the people you serve.
Yeah. Yes, it is a three-prong. That's
right.
Three-prong
a trident approach.
A trident approach. A three-prong approach to it, because you have to foster, and they're different audiences too.
Absolutely.
Like if you're speaking out, you're talking, you have to know your audience. Who am I trying to attract? Who am I wanting to connect with? And is it or is it just, I want to educate about the process of what we do? And that goes to everything, like whether you're applying for a grant, it's crazy stuff to contend with. So, what would you tell those out there that are tuning in, whether they're a business owner or a nonprofit? We'll kind of wrap up today with like maybe an action step or two as we are going into winter and things are calming in some regard, in our at least surroundings. What would you say this is a good time of year to do, or maybe an action step that would help towards digging in and nourishing?
Well, on my website, you can go there and fill out a simple form that says, yes, I want the assessment. And that's a big word. It's 10 questions that are like yes or no answers. And it just kind of helps you decide what you should be focusing on next. You and I both believe firmly in the fourth quarter as being a way to finish strong and start strong. Planning for next year now is really a great way to go. So whether you're a nonprofit or an organization, if you want to discern where you should be paying attention to and nourishing your organization, be it in the culture or in your systems. So, another term that people might be more familiar with is, do I need adaptive solutions or technical solutions? Spoiler alert, adaptive is all around the human. And I know that a lot of nonprofits don't have a robust HR department. And this training, this development, learning and growth, this traditionally falls under what's called HR, but it's really starting to expand. And HR is more than your payroll and your benefits. And it really is about your human and the resources that they bring to the table. And so whether you're 3 people or 30 people or 300 people, taking time and discerning where we want to grow and how we want to nourish our organization next year is critical right now.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's a very simple form. The continuum.
The link will be below.
Yes. The short answer is the reason why my company is called the Continuum is because it's an ongoing process, and you only discover your distinction or how you make a difference when you step back for a moment and look at what's happening in the continuum. Pay attention to where you're going, because you don't notice that growth incrementally. You only notice it when you stand back and evaluate. And when you stand back and evaluate, you can discover a distinction. You can innovate and integrate the goals and the gains you want for your organization. So
Perfect.
email me for the form so we can dig deep together.
Perfect. All those details will be down below. So check it out. And I encourage you, take advantage of this, because it's something that is very, very helpful and insightful. And then it will give you that starting point. And I know Angie's always open to scheduling a virtual session to chat a little bit more. So feel free to reach out to her as well to maybe get to know her a little bit better, whether it's for your business or many of us know nonprofits. So,
right.
Who could we connect her with that she could help dig in and nourish to have that success in the goal that nonprofit has. So thank you so much, Angie.
Oh, thank you,
I really
Amanda.
appreciate it. And thank you everyone out there for tuning in. Let us know where you're tuning in from, especially on the replay. Just drop that below. We love to find that out. And we will see you next time. Take care and be blessed.